Welcome. The genesis of this is trying to get a synopsis in less than 10 minutes, unlike some of the guys that have 2 and 3-part videos. This is for replacing a rear axle seal and bearing on a 2003 F250. It's got a Sterling 10.5-inch ring gear. So the first thing you need to do is really find out what axle you have. You can look in your door at the vehicle certification label. Mine is a 31. The 31, if you find the chart, is a 3.73 non-limited slip differential. If you have something other than that, you might do a little more research. You can go direct to the source. There's a tag at the 9 o'clock position on the rear end. Mine happens to say V for Van Dyke, so it's the same as really as a Sterling. It's a 373. It's a 10.5-inch ring gear, and it was made in 2002. If you have something different, again, you might not want to watch all this video. Here's the parts. Everything that you see on the table there cost me about $220, and I bought Timken everything. The seals, there's the part number. You need 2 of those. And there's a picture of them laying on top of the box, and one is right side up. And then I flipped it so you could see both sides. There's the outer bearing set. Bizarre enough, it's called just set 38. That's what you'll find for a part number. And it comes with both the race and the bearing. So you'll need 2 sets, if you want to call it that. Here's the inner set. It doesn't come as a set, so it's 2 separate boxes. The race comes in one box and the bearing comes in another. There's the part numbers for you. Very similar part numbers, so don't get confused on that. One's 306 and 036 on the end. I also got axle shaft O-rings. Found out I really didn't need them, but it's nice to have in case you booger one up and need one. And then I used felt instead of RTV for the back pumpkin gasket. RTV's too messy, and felt worked out really nice. So there you have it, pretty much. Bought 4 quarts of this at Walmart, 75 W140 synthetic. Again, at the 3 o'clock position, there's another tag that says 75 W140 synthetic oil only. I really don't know what was in the pumpkin when they put it together at the factory. Used about 6 cans of brake cleaner, so you'll need lots of that. Again, a Walmart product. I bought one of these specialty sockets. I bought mine on Amazon. It's called All Trade. There's the part number for it. It was about 20 bucks. It worked. There's lots of other chatter about other manufacturers and prices and places, so I can tell you mine worked. However, my brake pads did not work. They were kind of junk. I wouldn't get them again. I wound up having to grind some of the tabs off. They were essentially about a 32nd, maybe a 16th inch too wide. But I made them work. So let's get to it. Take the pumpkin cover off, the differential pumpkin, same thing. It's all 1/2-inch bolts. There's 12 of them. Make sure you note how to put the tags back on, otherwise they'll be sticking out when you reassemble it. There's the rear end, pretty ugly. Clean the RTV off and get it cleaned up. Once you do that, you'll clean up the cover as well if you'd like. Spray bomb it with some black paint. That's what I did. Inside, same thing, lots of brake cleaner, and scrape off the RTV, get it all cleaned up and ready to go. From that point, you pretty much can start off. I started off on the passenger side. There's tire, pop the inner cover off so you can get to all the bolts. Go ahead and loosen those up just a little bit before you jack it up. And then once you do that, go ahead and jack it up, put your jack stands in, take the lug nuts off and the wheel, and make sure it's chock. Put it in neutral at this point so it won't, because otherwise the hub won't rotate. You can go ahead and take the 2 18 millimeters out, take your brake caliper off, put it on something, don't let it hang by the brake line. Then you can remove the rotor drum if it'll come off. If not, you can keep it with the hub and set it off to the side. Go ahead and finish removing the 18 millimeters for the axle shaft, and then slide that out, put it in a safe place and take care of it. The end of it is where those O-rings go. Again, I didn't really need to replace them, but I did. That's the groove there at the end. So you might want to do that, or at least have a set. If you need them, that's what they look like when they showed up. I used Amazon and eBay for everything and had pretty good luck. It all showed up within just a few days. And Walmart for some of the oils. Take the axle nut off. Remember, if you decide to start on the driver's side, it's left-hand thread, so don't booger that up. That would be pretty easy to do. There'll be a little bit of oil that comes out when you take that axle shaft off, so have a pan or something underneath it as well. And then go ahead and pull the hub and the rotor, if it stayed together, off. Set it to the side. This is what the axle nut looks like. See the little key there on the right side? That's going to go in the keyway on top of the axle shaft. You can see that in other pictures. And a little bit of a video, not the best work here, but you can kind of see what that looks like. And the special tool, like I said, worked great for me. It was only 20 bucks. So when it clicks, it's actually the nut mechanism clicking, not necessarily your torque wrench. And by the way, that tool takes a 1/2 inch in case your torque wrench is something less than that. That's the oil slinger that goes on the inside of the inner bearing with the tabs pointing toward the exterior of the car. There's the hub. I used a punch down there on the left side to take both races out and put the new races back in. That worked pretty easy. The toughest part of it was getting the old seal off. You can see part of it there still on the axle shaft. There's some videos showing guys using pry bars, which I kind of had to do too to get that piece off, and a lot of penetrating oil. So you can see the keyway there. Piece of cedar 1x3 just happened to fit perfectly down in there, and I was able to knock the rest of what remained of the seal and the inner bearing out. So that was great. Pack your bearings with axle grease. Lots of talk about that. Just do it. And so the stack is going to be, you're going to put the races are in now. You put the inner bearing in, then you put the oil slinger on, and then you put the seal on. And the seal, you can just hand press it into place. Piece of cake at that point. Let's see. Once you get the seal on, then you can take the whole assembly, the whole hub assembly, and slide it onto the axle shaft. It'll actually fit up real easy. The seal will slide over if you cleaned everything up good. Then do the same thing for the outer bearing. Pack it with grease, and before you put it in, you want to put a little oil in the valley in between the inner and where the outer bearing is going to go. The torque is 60 plus or minus 5 foot-pounds for the axle nut when you get to it. Go ahead and tighten it down to that, and then back it off 5 if you replace the bearings. If you use your old bearings, you can back it off 7 clicks. And that's the axle nut clicking, not your torque wrench. Then you can put your axle shaft back in, put your 18 millimeter bolts in, use some Loctite with those, and then snug that up. Put everything else back together, your brake rotor drum on, your brake caliper, and the wheel. Then when you get, then you can torque the axle nuts. There's the back end. Everything's 1/2 inch. Here's some stuff out of the owner's manual. Yes, it does call for 75 W140 in there for the rear axle. For some reason, they show 3.3 liters and 6.9 pints, so that's 3.8 for the 10.5 inch ring gear, which is where the red pen is pointing. This section was horribly written. I don't know. The only takeaway is if by chance you're using your truck to back the boat into the lake and it's submerged in water, you need to change the rear end fluid. Otherwise, I can't make heads or tails of sense out of that particular paragraph. The next page in the owner's manual also shows you what you need to do at the 150,000 mile point, which is, sorry about the picture, but it says rear wheel drive. So just go ahead and plan on changing the rear diff oil. I would have changed mine earlier if I had known what it looked like, probably at 50,000 intervals. That's also at 50,000. Change the front axle lubricant. I haven't done that yet. I think it's a Dana axle instead of a Sterling for this application. And then lastly, just pay it forward. The only reason I'm doing this is I've used everybody else's YouTube stuff, and I want to say thanks to everybody. And a real special thanks to all those professional guys out there, especially those in the military who are taking care of vehicles and machines for a living. So thank you very much. Ciao.